Hello everyone and welcome to A Slice of My Life. This is part 3 of the unofficial 3-part series of FEGVE spinners that I'm reviewing that was sent to me by Roy of Spin Scene, and this is the FEGVE Air Ring Spinner. It's actually right here, in case you guys didn't obviously notice, but this is the Air Ring Spinner and this is what it comes in. This is what it comes in its whole complete package. So, like I've mentioned before in the other 2 parts, I've spent at least 4 days with this little baby over here, and let me tell you guys, the experience is actually really unique. This is my second ring spinner experience, the first one being the loophole. Now, this particular ring spinner sits all the way up here. The inner diameter over here is 17mm, so that's 1.7 cm in case you guys are wondering. But the loophole can actually go all the way up to the end of my finger, but this ring spinner sits here. I think this position is where most other ring spinners will sit on your finger as well, and it is quite comfortable. Now, even though this is my second ring spinner experience, it's my first time actually having a ring spinner sit up here, and I want to tell you guys that it is not as comfortable as I thought it would be, because most of the time I feel the spinner wanting to slip off my finger. But then again, here's the plus point about it, it's really nicely rounded, and because you actually have it on your finger like this, you don't actually feel any of the sharp edges that are caused or made basically by the weights on the outside. Now, this is a completely modular spinner. I would say modular because you could easily push the weights out, as you guys can see, and you can just completely remove it if you want to, but I'm not going to do that because this spinner doesn't belong to me. I believe that this is Roy's personal spinner. So if you push it in, you'll actually hear a little click. See that? So that actually helps to center these weights on the outside. But you can also spin it like this if you guys are into that kind of thing. But here's the coolest part. You can actually remove this ring bearing and swap it with a core like this. Now, this core might look familiar to some of you, and that's because it is the same core as featured on the Armored DIY spinner. Now, I only have one set of buttons here because Roy lent me only one set, but they are interchangeable anyway, technically, because they are the same core. So underneath the buttons, they actually have an etching, and these are 688 hex number 4. Now, I don't know if this number 4 actually is meant for the ring spin or for the Armored DIY, but the buttons are the same as the Armored DIY. I'm gonna say that the buttons are really comfortable. They have a nice concave, and there's a nice little dip over here in the middle so you can put a pointed object in, but it's really comfortable. And as a separate spinner, now I'm just gonna put this aside. As a separate spinner, the core alone is actually quite fun to fidget with, although it is a disc-shaped design that offers close to no grip on the outside at all, but it is really smooth, and if it's your thing, guys, then yeah, you know, it looks so solid because the screw slots are really small, but you can actually have this as a spinner as well, separately with this as a ring spin. So you can technically have both spinners spinning at the same time. You can have your ring spinner on your index finger, and then you hold the core with your middle finger and thumb grip, and then start fidgeting with it with your 4th finger. I mean, if you really want that. But you gotta make sure that you keep a ring spinner further away from your middle finger, if not you're gonna just knock yourself like that. So I'm gonna talk about the fidgetability of this in its ring spinner form first. It is not so bad, but I realized that I actually have to twist my finger quite high above, like making a cross, before I actually give it a good flick, and that kind of feels a bit funny. It looks a bit different as well, and I think that it's just overall quite strange. But I'm not able to give it a good flick if I'm using just my thumb. Somehow I tend to have to pull my fingers back when I'm flicking downwards with my thumb or stretching it out, so it kind of looks a little bit strange, like it's kind of like a kind of like that. So that's a little bit strange to me, and I'm not able to give it a nice two-handed flick because, you know, it just wants to slip out all the time. But that's my opinion on it. I don't know if you guys actually really like it because that's, you know, very subjective. So that's just one thing that I want to point out. Now, I don't know how you professional ring spinners actually fidget with your ring spinners, but for me, I just do it this way and I do it this way, and it's not really discreet because of the weights on the outside, but it does spin quite well. On I guess a really good strong flick like that, I'm actually able to hit about a 1-minute spin on my finger. So that's something that I'm not able to experience with the loophole, you know, since it being my only other spinner. But the loophole, to be honest with you, is not made really for long spins because it doesn't really feature extra weights on the outside. But this really helps you to get a good grip and a resting spot for you to regenerate the spin again, and it's easy for you to just catch it back and spot like that. See? So that's actually quite cool if you guys are into that kind of thing, and it's easy to grab with your thumb and your middle finger, just stopping it in place like that as well. That's something that I wanted to point out. Now let's transform this back into its standard hand spinner form, and it actually comes with a tool, and this tool is pretty cool because you can see that it has different edges here and there. So using it on different sides, like this way or this way or this way, you can actually find a lot of different applications for it. So first of all, what you're gonna do is make sure that you don't have the buttons here, definitely. Then you're gonna find the right orientation, and this part here actually sits inside like that. So you guys can see it's a perfect fit. It goes inside the inner race of the bearing itself, and then the outside edges here will sit into these two cutout slots here. So that will give you a nice comfortable leverage point for you to actually turn, so that you can remove this cap without actually scratching anything else. I like this tool, it's really well thought out, so good job to FEGVE for this. Then all you gotta do is just push out this bearing and you can basically have a ring spinner like that. Now this is something that is way more discreet in my opinion, but it still feels like it wants to drop out of my finger, so that's kind of sad. Then just remove these buttons, okay, of the core, and this over here you can actually use this end. As you guys can see, this will sit inside the 688 bearing like that, and then it will engage these two slots. So very good job in terms of this particular bearing tool. So what you want to do basically is you want to first remove the bearing from the core, then we're going to leave the cap aside, don't install it, and pop out the 688 bearing, leave it there, and then we're going to get the core this way with the flush side up. And then we're going to put the core into the spinner body itself. Then we're going to get this cap and start tightening this over here. And finally, when we want to get it really tight, we're going to use this tool again. And from this side as well, same thing. We're going to go and just tighten it. And now you notice as we are closing it all the way in, that this actually works really well, because now this cutout here fits this part perfectly as well. So you guys can see. And I like the fact that it has markings here. It has a 61803, which I believe should be the size of this bearing. And then we have a 688 and a 695, because I think that some of the FEGVE spinners actually feature a 695 bearing. So this is really cool because it's nicely marked out. You have 3 sides that you guys can use and just a flat side for any other purpose. It's really cool. Then you're gonna get this bearing, the 688 bearing, pop it into the inner core, get the 688 core cap and screw that part on. And now here's the next level of genius, where you get the 688 side of this bearing removal tool or bearing closing tool. You notice that it is the narrower side, so you'll never hit the outer frame at all. So that's really cool. Right, then we're gonna tighten it, put the tool aside, put this bearing aside, get our buttons, install the buttons back in place, just like that. And we have transformed this from a ring spinner into a standard spinner. Now this spinner is essentially a quad spinner because it's got 4 arms, and that also means that during its spin, it's not really affected by the gyroscopic effect. Really good, really stable, really well balanced, and you guys can see virtually no wobble whatsoever. Now for the fun of it, I'm going to take a sharp object and just put it in the point there while we spin it like that, so I can show you guys how well balanced this thing is. Here we got my tweezer, and I'm gonna give it a good spin, like so, and then get it onto the point like that. Flip it around and over. Make sure that the tweezer is open up. Then we're going to balance it and try and get it centered right there and let go. There we go. Beautiful. Just simply beautiful. I'm going to catch it right now. So you guys know that speaks a lot for its balance. Very well balanced spinner. Now, as a spinner, yes, you can still table spin it. Not on this surface, I'm sorry guys, but yes, you can table spin it. I'm going to show you guys right now. And I'm easily getting 4-minute spin times. Man, this thing is pretty hefty for what it looks like. It is brass and stainless steel, and in its spinner configuration, it is pretty comfortable. Yes, there are some sharp edges here because the weights actually feature a chamfer, but the chamfer up here feels like it's a little bit unfinished, so it might be a little bit sharp, but it's so small that you don't actually feel much of it. It's almost to the point where I can just say that it is negligible. Out here, it's really rounded, and in here as well, it's really rounded, so it makes for a very good resting spot for you to start your spin and regenerate your spin on a index finger and thumb grip. Now, preloaded flicks, of course, no problem. You guys already saw me doing it constantly. Now I'm going to swap out the grip to a middle finger and thumb grip, and then let's talk about fidgeting with the 4th finger, where actually I have a little bit of problem because this is actually quite chunky. Sometimes if I get my finger up here like that, this high, I'm not able to give it a good flick because I feel like the whole thing's just rubbing against the top of my finger and onto my fingernail, so I'm just missing out on that flick. But if I don't kind of commit so much and just put my finger just a little bit like that, then it's not going to be much of a problem. Now, index finger flicks, pushes, pulls, no problem. But if you actually land inside here, then you're going to get a really strange kind of pull because it is so rounded up here and you have a weight kind of right there resting against the tip of your finger that you really need to put pressure downwards this way for you to just get some good grip like that. Yeah, see, I'm actually kind of screwing up. But if you're going forward and going back when you have your finger on a weight, that's just perfect. So I thought I would share that with you guys. On to my final verdict, guys. This thing, first of all, I'm gonna tell you the price, okay? Because this is really worth the money. It is great value for the spinner, very well priced, and the price of the spinner is $70 US. $70 for a spinner like this that doubles as 2 spinners, but technically is 2 spinners, where it's a ring spinner, and of course it is a standard hand spinner as well. $70 guys for a solid piece of brass with 4 stainless steel weights and the transforming ability where you can actually change it out to a hand spinner or a ring spinner, or you could have them separate and just play with them separately as well. Spin the core alone, spin the bearing alone, have it as a ring spinner. I forgot about mentioning about the bearing retention tool. It's bearing retention tool and it comes in a sweet little box like this. Look at that guys, like $70 is really worth it in my opinion. Now these I believe actually sold out on the first and probably the second run as well. I think it is still available on the Spin Scene Big Cartel web store, so make sure you check links in the video description below if you guys are interested in getting one of these. Don't sleep on it because these will sell out. And I don't know if FEGVE will ever make them again. Thank you once again to Roy from Spin Scene for sending this to me for review. It is quite a shame that I have to return it to you, but then again, yes guys, I don't really do well with brass, but that does not take away anything from this spinner. Brass and stainless steel, well, the difference is just a personal choice. Like I mentioned to you before, brass actually makes my skin react pretty badly to the patina, so brass is really not for me. But for those of you out there who really love brass and can appreciate a spinner like this, look at the finish and all that. It's a very nice, I believe this is like a sandblasted or media blaster kind of finish. Very smooth to the touch. You guys are not going to regret this purchase if you guys are looking for a ring spinner that can double up as a hand spinner. And it's a solid hand spinner, I would say. Ring spinner will sit up here. I know I'm just repeating myself again guys, but really there is a lot going for this spinner and I think that it's super value for money. That's it guys. Thank you for watching all the way throughout, and I hope that I provided enough information for you guys to decide whether or not the FEGVE Air Ring Spinner is a spinner for you. Size comparison. I'm sorry guys, I keep forgetting about size comparisons nowadays because I get so caught up in actually talking about the spinner. Here you go, size comparison. It is about the same height as a stubby, slightly shorter, but if you turn it this way then it is slightly longer. And of course, definitely wider than a stubby. But a very comfortable, very pocketable size nonetheless. If you are interested, make sure you go check out the Spin Scene Big Cartel web store. Links in the video description as always, and grab yours today before they sell out because this really is value for money. If FEGVE made one in stainless steel, I'll be all up in that, but this is brass, so really it's not something for me because, you know, brass reacts to my skin. Nice weight, nice heft, really cool as a dual spinner or 2 spinners for the price of 1. That's about it guys. I know I kept repeating the same stuff, so I'm gonna end the video here and I hope that you guys have a great week. Stay tuned for the next slice of my life everyone. Bye!